Alright, so Netflix finally released this new show, The Defenders, which essentially is, like a team up of Daredevil, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones. And like the crazy schmuck that I am, I've watched all of it, release day, release night, essentially. I just binge watched all of it right now, and I am extremely tired. But regardless, I'm here to give you guys an honest review of pretty much, well, is the show worth a watch, and well, if it's good in the whole lore of things. But yeah, without further ado, here's my review of Netflix's Defenders. Alright, to start things off, let's talk about the overall style and tone of the show. Now, this is interesting because unlike the Avengers, each of the characters have very different aesthetics in their respective shows. As a refresher, I'll list them all out. First up, Iron Fist. It's very fantasy-oriented, and it takes some cues from traditional Chinese wuxia films. Jessica Jones is a straight-up detective noir, neo-noir to be exact. Daredevil is a gritty crime drama, emphasis on the drama. And Luke Cage is a straight love letter to blaxploitation films of the 70s, with a dash of 90s crime films. At first, each of their styles stick with their characters like an aura that surrounds them, or even the setting tied to the character. They rarely mix, but when they do, it's odd to see how they handle it. Most of it's done through lighting, but sometimes they will layer one's music style over the other's visual aesthetic. It's weird, but it works. Well, that is until midway through the season. Once the plot begins to pick up steam, the tone shifts to a gritty crime thriller with a fantasy element, as well as a Saturday morning superhero cartoon vibe. Now, this could be a complete preference, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a bit off-putting since the original shows have been nothing but serious, but here it works, and the Avengers vibe starts to really shine through. It's a shame we don't see a lot of the original styles meshing with each other throughout, but after a while it did get a little pointless. So the show makes the right move here, but it does sprinkle it in here and there near the end of the show. Another reflection of the style is actually the shot composition, and here's where the neo-noir really, shines through, because they go with a lot of crazy dynamic shots, especially with Jessica Jones, but I mean, where there, there's some great candid angles and some great, really weird, like, over-the-head shots. They aren't really used well, and they're kind of useless. And besides, dynamic shots, some of the basic cinematography is also very used just incorrectly. For example, in episode 2, there was like this reverse shot, kind of like a dynamic thing that they were going for. Whenever they would show like Luke Cage talking with someone, they would always like show the background, like as if implying that there was something going to happen, but nothing ever did. And for me, that's the pet peeve, but I just found it annoying as hell. But regardless, the cinematography is fine, but in some cases, it's just not really working. Moving on, just to touch on it, the music is also good, but not for originality. It is constantly jumping from each of the characters' styles, which is surprisingly effective, and it correctly gets the mood right each time. Either that, or each of them are so interchangeable that it just works. But yeah, if you were looking for consistency here, just like the tone, it's not in the cards. Now let's move on to the action. And, well, let's just say that Iron Fist's really hokey, slow-paced choreography does not necessarily, it is present here with some of his fight scenes, but for the most part, it is completely absent, and thankfully we get all of the cool fighting styles from the other shows, like front and center here. The acrobatic and speed of Daredevil, the rawness of Jessica Jones, and the brutality of Luke Cage combine together to form a good balance of action that keeps each fight scene fresh. But for anyone looking for more of a certain style, like the very gory nature of Daredevil's fight scenes, well, it's more PG-13 here. I mean, there are R-rated moments, but not consistently. But now, with all the technical stuff out of the way, let's move on to the plot. And well, here, don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's just very serviceable, yet it has a lot of issues. Weirdly enough, for a show that focuses a lot on exposition, especially in the first episodes, the later ones will leave you with too many questions that either don't get answered or are given answers that feel just unsatisfying. Not to mention, the twists and turns we are taking on seem a little unwarranted. For example, some huge character events occur here. Now, while they do create some great cliffhangers for the upcoming seasons for the individual shows to resolve, in this show they seem kind of forced, which sadly speaks for the show as a whole. It's kind of a forced meetup of all the characters, which really didn't need to happen. But in a way, I'm glad it does, because, well, last but not least, the characters. And, well, most importantly, their interactions. As a bunch of vigilantes that play by their own rules, it's rather enjoyable to see them clash, whether it be with their fists or their words, creating some great banter and tension among the ranks. Each character brings their A game. Well, everybody except for Danny. Now again, I do not blame the actor here. but sadly, the writers have undermined him again. And this time more than ever. In the plot, they make Iron Fist out to be this ultimate weapon, but with the Hand constantly chasing him throughout the show, well, it really depreciates his character to a simple magical MacGuffin for the story. Which honestly sucks because as a person who's, becoming more acquainted with the actual comic book character, they are seriously underutilizing him. And I mean, seriously, it's ridiculous. Other than the main four, all the other supporting characters do their jobs perfectly and equally play a role in the events that unfold. Well, except for some notable ones that went above and beyond, but again, I don't want to spoil anything, so the less I say the better. Again, I mean, there's some huge, cliffhanger elements, to this show that will definitely be, resolved in the upcoming seasons, but again, I do not want to spoil a thing. Besides that, the surviving members of the Hand are back and act as the main villains here, but this time with a new head honcho, played by Sigourney Weaver, who delivers an impressive role. She oozes a very mother-like demeanor, which is not original, but works really well here. All in all, the characters are great, and it's truly one of the main reasons to watch, especially if you're invested in each of their story arcs. Alright, now on to my final thoughts. As a whole, this show has a lot of issues, and they mainly stem from the plot itself. I mean, as a fan of, the past Netflix, Marvel shows, this is all leading up to this. And sadly, it just left kind of a bad taste in my mouth. Regardless, the main reason to watch the show is definitely the characters. With the lackluster story, yes, that's kind of an issue there, but there's still more to come, and this just strengthened the characters so much more, and I honestly cannot wait to see what they do next. Because at the end of the day, the characters here make it worthwhile. Whether it be the individual tones, the fight scenes, or the dialogue, it's a fun show to binge. And for any fan of the Marvel Netflix universe, this is a pretty good addition. Well, let's review. And yeah, now this show is pretty much prime binge material because it's only 8 episodes long, which is a lot shorter than, the other shows, seasons and stuff. They're around 13, I think the shortest one was 10, but still, this is the shortest one by far. And also, if you're trying to watch this show knowing nothing of the other shows or knowing nothing about the comic books, please don't, because this show does not hold your hand. It expects you to know each of the characters, and it expects you to understand that they're all different, and pretty much the whole plot revolves around watching the past shows. So do not go in this blind. You have to know at least something. But having said all that, moving on, I don't think they're going to make a season 2, or at least anytime soon. I mean, if they do decide to make, Defender season 2, it's probably going to be Avengers 2, Phase 2. They're going to have, multiple seasons of the other shows before they go into a new season for this show. Because, while I did enjoy them, coming together, at least the story for this one really didn't, leave anything open to continue, for them to continue together. You know what I mean? As a team. They're gonna split up, we'll definitely see, Daredevil pop up in Luke Cage again, or stuff like that, because, now they know each other. But regardless, for now, I wouldn't hold out for season 2. But yeah, having said all that, it's a good show, lackluster story, but it's still an enjoyable watch. Yeah. Well, that's the video. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys later.